Welcome to How to Retire on Time, a show that answers your questions about all things retirement, including income, taxes, Social Security, healthcare, and more. This show is an extension of the book How to Retire on Time, which you can grab today on Amazon or by going to www.howtoretireontime.com. My name is Mike Decker. I'm the author of the book How to Retire on Time, but I'm also a licensed financial advisor, insurance agent, and tax professional, which means when it comes to discussing financial topics, we can cover it all. Now, that said, please remember this is just a show. Everything you hear should be considered informational, as in not financial advice. If you want personalized financial advice, then request your wealth analysis today from my team by going to www.yourwealthanalysis.com. With me in the studio today is David Franson. David, thanks for being here.
Yes, glad to be here.
David's job is going to be reading your questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. You can submit your questions in by either texting them to 913-363-1234. That's 913-363-1234. Or you can email them to heymike@howtoretireontime.com. Let's begin.
Hey, Mike, how do you include HSA plans in a retirement plan?
Yeah, so some people will use them in all sorts of different ways, like tax-free income eventually, which is kind of, I think, a weird situation. Some people have claimed that that's their plan.
Oh,
But it's like, what's the purpose of an HSA? An HSA is basically a way that you can put funds into an account that can grow tax-free and that you can use tax-free for certain qualified expenses. And after a certain point, you can maybe tap into it indifferently. But if you're alive, there's a good chance that in your future, there's going to be medical expenses.
yeah.
Okay. If there's a future medical expense, you don't want that to disrupt the other parts of your plan, mostly for tax purposes. Okay. Let me unpack that for a second before I then finish this thought. All right, David, it's December 10th
Okay.
in the distant future.
All right.
And you have a medical emergency because being with the family was just so stressful. It put you over the limit, and now you're having some health issues, whatever it is. I say that jokingly, but
Yeah.
Thanksgiving and Christmas or Hanukkah, like these family holidays,
Right.
they really raise people's stress levels.
Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Now you don't have an HSA, you don't have a Roth, everything's in your retirement account, your 401k, your IRA. Okay, so it's all pre-tax. You've enjoyed this particular year around, let's say, $200,000. You lived a great life. You've had a great retirement. You've spent $200,000. All right. So now you're in the hospital and you've got to pay for some of these expenses. Okay, some medication, whatever it is, and the bill was high enough that it pushes you just over from a taxable standpoint to where you're not only just paying for these expenses with pre-tax income, so you're paying taxes on the expenses coming out, but you're also going to increase your IRMA Medicare charges. So IRMA is, if you go over, I think it's like $202,000, $203,000 right now, that you're gonna pay additional Medicare charges in addition to the taxes you've got to pull out. There can be a snowball effect that happens. Not just one example of it's IRMA. You triggered a tax event that has a snowball event of other penalties, other surcharges, other basically increase in taxes, which kind of stink. Okay?
Yeah.
For the longest time, if you had under a certain threshold, let's say it was $44,000 for a household, and you increase that, you had medical expenses, you pull out some extra income, that could trigger a taxable event that now you've got Social Security taxes. Now, Trump might get rid of Social Security tax, so that one might go away. But you've got all these different situations to where if you just go a couple of dollars over from taxable income, it triggers other taxes. Think of long-term care.
Yeah.
Maybe you've navigated your retirement to where you're slowly taking out income within the 0% long-term capital gains bracket, or you're in the 15% bracket, and now you're in the next bracket. My point being is, if your ability to take income out for, let's say, health expenses creates a taxable event, it could trigger other events.
And just to make sure I understand right, in your hypothetical situation, I'm already retired. I had like $200K in my 401k and IRA.
No, $200K of income.
Oh, okay. So I'm making
taxable income.
I'm making $200K taxable income.
And then you had to pull out, let's say, $5,000 for medical expenses.
Oh.
You just crossed the tax threshold.
Oh, right.
And tax thresholds could be with Social Security. It could be with IRMA. There's a whole number of things that it could be.
Yes.
And IRMA, if you're single, is less. It's like around 100,000.
Yeah.
For a married couple, it's 200,000. But there's all these different thresholds where if you just spend $1 over, there's a taxable event that could be triggered.
Oy.
And they're all nuanced. And for the higher income people that are earning they're more, you've got, I mean, it's just, this is why I can't see anyone planning for retirement without planning for healthcare costs and for taxes.
Okay.
It is such an important part of a retirement plan. And so why would someone use HSA as an income source? It doesn't make sense to me. If you're alive, there's a good chance that at some point in your life, you'll probably have healthcare expenses. HSA is a way that you can take it out tax-free, take care of those expenses, and not upset or disrupt other tax issues in retirement. Do you see how it's like, can I keep it separate? If you want tax-free income, fill up your Roth or do IRA to Roth conversions, right? You're not doing IRA to HSA conversions. You're doing IRA to Roth conversions. Build up your Roth. Do the contributions to the Roth. If you want to go down the route, if you need a death benefit, you've got a bunch of after-tax brokerage funds, maybe you do put money into an IUL. You're going to pay cost of insurance for death benefits, so you have to need the death benefit. You may want a certain rider to help with healthcare costs because you didn't have enough in the HSA, but the HSA isn't the end-all be-all. You can buy insurance to help cover that, but you're buying insurance. There's cost to insurance, so let's call it as it is. But my point being is, with HSA or really any investment product or strategy, use it as it was intended to be used. Don't Frankenstein things into the end-all be-all that solves all of your problems. It's like, I love football. We had a great season here in Kansas City.
We did.
So would you have Patrick Mahomes be a running back? Like,
I mean, he's a good runner, but no, that's not his specialty.
That's not his forte. Are you going to have Patrick Mahomes be the center? Like, no.
Definitely not.
Or offensive line? Like, no way.
No.
Would he make a good linebacker? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But his training was to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
And so each person on the offense or defense is a highly specialized individual that's learned their craft. When you have a deliberately designed portfolio, you've got a bunch of different investments or products with a very specific purpose. The problem is when you try to get an investment or a product to do a little bit of everything. Nothing does everything well. And so I think that's where people get the misconception. So all the younger people, if you still have access to fund an HSA, fund. Like, just put money in there as best you can. It is such a great resource, but don't plan on it being an income resource. Use it for a medical expense buffer.
Yeah.
Very few people I've met have over $300,000 to $400,000 in their HSA.
Wow.
That's not a common thing. The average retiree is expected to spend $315,000 in medical care costs. And that's like long-term care and so on. So let your HSA be there on the side to cover the unintended healthcare costs that will likely rise in the future. The reality is we're living longer than expected and we're sicker longer than expected. We can't control healthcare expenses. So don't try and, squeeze every penny out of it for income. Let it be for healthcare expenses. Have that flexibility. Have that kind of be like a healthcare reservoir. It's there in case of issues. And then how do you invest in it?
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I was just thinking like, well, what should we invest it in? Should we go like really high risk? What's the strategy behind what the funds get invested in? So
it depends on the person. This is not investment advice.
Okay, sure, yes.
The person driving the car right now is listening in. I'm not talking to you one-on-one. I don't know your situation. So you have to be cognizant of the whole plan. But in my opinion, a good portion of it should be in something that has significant growth potential. If you're healthy and you probably don't need it, let it grow. Try to grow it. But have maybe 20% in a reservoir or a certain dollar amount that you know is less risky, whether that's a bond fund, whether that is maybe more conservative stocks, something like that. I mean, it's in the market in one way or the other, but you want to make sure that it's growing, grow. If you're in your 60s and you have a normal kind of healthcare time span, grow it until you're 70 and then maybe become more conservative with it in the 70s.
Okay.
So it's seasons of life, the different time frames and all of that. But yeah, grow, baby, grow. HSA, grow it for healthcare expenses. Simple economics would suggest that the more people that are retiring, which there are more and more people being retired today than ever before, the increased costs of the healthcare industry, because there's limited supply and there's an increase of demand, is going to drive up the prices. So make sure that you're increasing your HSA and you're growing your HSA to offset those potentially future higher prices. That's all the time we've got for the show today. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing to it wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for How to Retire on Time. Discover if your portfolio is built to weather flat market cycles or if you're missing tax minimization opportunities that you may not even know exist. Explore strategies that may be able to help you lower your overall risk while potentially increasing your overall growth and lifestyle flexibility. This is not your ordinary financial analysis. Learn more about Your Wealth Analysis and what it could do for you regardless of your age, asset, or target retirement date. Go to www.yourwealthanalysis.com today to learn more and get started.